Dance turn the shit into a nightclub.
I'd like to start off with Fuck Your Rough Mix.
Yes.
How's everybody doing? So we're 2 people shy because literally, this is the biggest convention I've ever been to. I've never seen anything like it. So we're still waiting on Rodney and 2, but they will be here shortly. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so happy my brother came here to sit next to me.
I had to.
I took my time picking the people who I wanted to bring up here just on the simple fact that I felt that it was necessary to have people who have sustained excellence for a long period of time. Because one thing you got to know about producers, especially producers, engineers and producers, but anybody creative, you got the shortest window in the world. And when you get hot, when you get that first record, you're on the clock. And when that clock starts ticking, you got about 3 to 4 years to maximize everything. Now, when you pass that 3 to 4 year threshold and you make it past that and you still sustain it and get number ones, there's probably, I can count them all on my hand. It's unprecedented. So that's why I begged my man Wonder to come up here. Obviously, you know Dave's been in the game and put me on for a million years. Rodney, once again, another legend who should be here shortly. I think he's been in the business damn near 3 decades. And the fact that he has a nomination for Record of the Year that I luckily happen to be a part of it just doesn't happen. So all your questions about how to sustain it, how to get in, how he got on, how I got on, any technical questions, the floor is yours. There will be no questions that's not answered. First question.
Okay, so I actually have a question for Boy Wonder. So how do you know when you're overproducing, and what is the best way to make a track feel full and complete without overproducing?
For me, I had to learn through time about overproducing, and it's just like, you get to a point sometimes where you try to put too much things on a record. You got to think about it like this. You got to think of a song as a producer. You got to make a song a canvas for an artist to paint on. So you got to put just enough for an artist to paint his picture over what you bring, which is the canvas, which is the track. You know what I'm saying? So, for me, I try not to, if you listen to a lot of my production, I don't do a lot of lead melodies. I don't try to do anything that would stray like a songwriter's melodies. I just keep things very, very simple when it comes to production. And it's hard to explain and like put it there, like to tell you exactly what to do because it's different every single time. Everything is different. But for me, it's like I try to do the less is more thing and put just enough for the artist. If it feels full enough just for the artist to build something over and there's a vibe, then you could just get it to him. And then if there's anything to do after, you could do it yourself after too as well. But it's always less is more for me. So
Appreciate you.
I'll elaborate a little bit on that. So one thing with me and Wonder, whenever we connect or collide, he's literally one of the 3 producers, because I can't really think of anybody other than him, maybe Max Martin, and probably Mike Will, on the sense of when he said the lead line, it's so important. There's times when I come in and what the artist is saying or his melody, that's the most important melody. But then the producer will start feeling himself and be like, oh, I'm gonna put this counter melody, this moog over it that takes my ear away from the hit. So I'll mute it. There's never anything away of the hit. You gotta identify the hit, which 9 times out of 10 is the song, and you gotta get everything out of its way. Just everything out of it. Whatever's not the hit, you don't need it. Just thinking about that. Next.
So my sister and I, we really absolutely love your vocal effects, and we know you're kind of known as a master of vocal effects. So I was just curious if there is any common or typical effects chain that you typically use when you're starting a song?
The only thing that you can kind of find that is a consistent thing with me is I love putting effects outside the speakers. I love, phase reversing pretty much all my effects so it doesn't get away of what? The hit. If the vocalist is the star of the show and you put delays that step on what he's saying, especially if the delay's hitting when his vocal's hitting, It's a nightmare. So 9 times out of 10, I always do these 2 rules. I put it on the outside, and when I say outside of the instruments, you know what I mean? And then the second most important thing is you'll never hear a delay when you hear his vocal. So I don't know if you guys follow me, but one of my things I always say is like, fuck your ping pong delay. So they'll put just the delay on, and it'll be through the whole thing, which is, cool. But with me, it's like, if he says a word, here comes the delay, and then he says his next word. But if he says a word and he's rolling all the way through, I'm not going to put a delay to take my ear away from that. So if you look at me, I never have auxes set up for my stuff. A lot of people do. A lot of people I really appreciate do. But with me, you'll see my effects audio tracks, and you'll see about 25 of them. And every word has a special moment. So this delay will be different. This one will be a reverb burst. This one will be a delay that has a vibrato on it. It always changes. This never stays the same.
If you're as good as Jay, you can start your mix wherever you want. If you're just starting out, like me, you have to leave room for the vocals. And so when you're starting out, start with the vocals. That way you always have a spot for them. And if you listen to his work, he not only has a spot, but it's a spot that features the vocal, and you're drawn to it. And if you start mixing with the drums, that's really hard to do when you first start out. Now, to my right are 2 guys that can do whatever they want, and it's going to sound great. Because after a while, you learn how to leave that space. But as you're starting out, it's really good to try and start with the vocal first, and then or either just bring it in from time to time to make sure it's still working. Can I get an amen, please?
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before the next question, I got a question for Boy Wonder that I always wanted to ask.
All right.
How do you know when you got one? Like, woo, and you do the dance. Everybody's done the dance in the studio when you're like, oh my God. How do you know who to give it to? Because that's the most important. Like, a lot of people can produce a hit, but if you don't find the right vessel for it, it's a wrap. And you'll be mad like, man, that should have went number 1. Well, you didn't pick the right vessel. And the most important one is how did you become the producer that puts other producers on?
To answer the first question, the crazy thing about it is a lot of the time I never know a song's going to be a hit. I'll say this might be a hit. Like, for instance, taking you back to when we did So Far Gone, we all thought the hit was Uptown. We're like, yeah, this Uptown's the record, you know?
Run and tell your friends that I'm on. Best believe.
Dropped the tape, and then Best I Ever Had was the record.
This one's for you. Baby, you my everything. You all I ever wanted. We could do it real big. Bigger than you ever done it. You be up on everything.
Sometimes it's clear cut and you know it's going to be a hit, but like a lot of the times, like, this shit just happens, you know? Like, I can't even really like explain it. And when it comes to putting other producers on, it's just a thing. For me, it's like I fuck with a lot of talent and a lot of producers, and I feel like me myself coming up, I came from Toronto. There was not much going on. It was pretty hard to get recognition, and before the internet age and everything. And me, I just like to see other people win. Like, I'm winning a lot myself, and it's never fun to win by yourself. I want to win with my family, my team, everybody. I got everybody involved. You know what I'm saying? I got producers that I work with that were friends before, that are now doing big things. One of my best friends is my manager. Like, my whole team is just my friends. I just want to see my friends win as much as I win, because who wants to be on top by themselves? You know what I'm saying?
How does the new guy who's incredible get to you?
Just send me music, bro. I literally listen to everything. Like, a lot of the time, I still live in Canada, so a lot of the time I'm at home, and I live in like the boonies, so I'm just listening to music. Like, I really live this shit. I really do this, and I listen to a lot of music. Anything that anybody gives me, I actually listen to it. So I've found a lot of people, like Party Next Door. Like, I was one of the first people working with Murder Beats. There's a lot of people Frank Dukes, a lot of people that I came up with, and it was just from literally.
Did you hear the names he just mentioned? Like, I just found Frank Dukes. But on another note, he did lie to you. He knows when a hit is a hit because he'll send me a text with 17 flames, and he'll say, "Don't fuck this up." The last one that I just received last night, he said, you better make this sound like a fat lady falling down the stairs.
I did say that. I did. Sometimes but like a lot of the times for some of the big ones, like I had no idea. I'll tell you that. I'll be for real. So.
All right, who's next?
My name is Ron Zelli, and I'm going to repeat what I asked the person that was before you guys. And my whole thing is about the passion and love about what you guys do. Not really about what we know about you guys right now, but the story before you got to where you got to. The passion that said, you know what, I want to help this area in the entertainment industry to be able to polish these sounds. Because, engineers don't get a lot of recognition. They should get more recognition than they do, to be honest. Because of the engineer, why it sonically is acceptable to the ear and to the heart. So I want to know, like, when did you get that mind and say, you know what, I want to get into this area because I know I love it and I know it's needed.
I tell people every day that I have the best job in the world. Like, think about it. You deal with geniuses, whether it's Wonder, whether it's Calvin Harris, whoever you're dealing with, and it's a different genius every day. And basically, you're having philosophical conversations with geniuses. So if Boy Wonder sends me a record, right? He's saying, Jason, I took it as far as I can go. I think this is where I'm at. What do you think? And then I do what I think. And then what does he do? I send it to him, and he goes, well, I like what you did. However, ... I need this. And 9 times out of, not even 10 times out of 10, make it knock harder.
That's not too often with this guy, though. Usually
Make it knock hard every time.
Usually it's just like one shot with him. He usually knows what to do all the time. So that's rare.
So second thing is, the most important thing is find your vessel. And what I mean by find your vessel is, for him, Drake was his vessel, amongst others. Party was his vessel. For me, he's my vessel. And when you find your vessel, if you guys don't hear music the same, it's not gonna work. It's good. You could be the greatest engineer in the world, but if you're linked up with somebody who hears differently from you, you're not the greatest engineer to them. And you can't take it personal. But going back to what you were saying with the passion, there's no one like me. I'll give you an example. Huge artists. I mean, when I say huge, gigantic, top 3 in the game. They get so used to the rough that their engineer that's 3 weeks out of school did. And they say to themselves, I want the 2-track. I just want the 2-track and just kind of polish my vocals up. Every time, 10 out of 10 times, I say, thank you. I don't need the money. Like, I'm really passionate, and I don't want to, not only do you have a brand, I have a brand, but more importantly, I don't feel comfortable taking your money not doing what I feel is best. And I lose it all the time. Like, literally, I lose a lot of records because I love I love it. You know what I mean? I'm not doing it, and I never chase the money. I've never done we've done 1 million records, and we don't even talk about the paperwork, but whatever, it gets sorted out. We never talk. Have you had one talk about money ever?
Never, not once.
We do free shit all the time. Like, it's a fellowship. So you find, like, think about it. I get to talk to Boy Wonder about music every day. Like, wouldn't you do that for free? If Boy Wonder called any of us for, like, yo, I need a mix real quick. I'm playing a record for Rihanna tomorrow. What do you think I'm going to say? Done.
You also can't put a price on quality. For me, I would never put a price on. If I'm getting the best stuff, which is, from this guy right here, like, whatever. Like, I don't care what it is. I just want it to sound good. I want it to sound the way I want people to hear it, and you can't put a price on that. So.
And I'll say a funny story. I actually learned it from Dave because I remember being his assistant, and you're new to the game, so you just think like, okay, the mix comes in, Dave makes it sound better, the end. And then I saw Dave bring out a drum machine. He started replacing samples. He played new bass notes. I'm like, what the fuck? Are you allowed to do this? Like, and he's always instilled the mindset to me, like, whatever it takes to make it number one. It could be a B-side. It could be whatever. I'm going to do whatever I can to make it number one. And it doesn't work for everybody. Like I said, you got to find the people who hear it the same. Because I've done, he's done some stuff. I'll never forget, he worked on something, like some delay for like 2 hours. And I'm like, Jesus, kill me. And the artist came in and said, like, take that bullshit off. Hilarious.
Hey, I want to say something. Thank you, Jay. It was 4 hours, but who's counting? I was working with Shakira down in Miami, and I spent like 6 hours on a hi-hat part. So that's me. One of my favorite quotes is "Fuck the demo." That's true because a guy like Jason and all the other top engineers, they know how to do things that are going to get your record placed and heard and go to the top that don't even include engineering. It's a feeling. They know how to redo the groove. They know how to set the vocals so that it's giving you something to grasp and all that. So young engineers coming along will get there, but none of those things are in the demo right now. And so always trust a top guy if you got the money and if you want to go to the top. Now you can make it to the top, but he'll get you Grammys, whereas a demo probably won't, because there's things in there that like play him and then play a regular mix, and you'll see it's a feeling, it's emotion, it's a groove, it's all those intangible things that those of us that are familiar with the Spanish and Latin community know in our hearts, you know. And so give the new guy a chance, help him come along. But if you really want to get there, that's your man right there.
Yep. Amen.
Before we go to the next question, I just want to
that.
introduce El Presidente, the gatekeeper of Def Jam, 2 Clark.
How you guys doing today? Definitely not that.
And he owes me so many favors that I told him if he comes here, he has to take everybody's demo. So if you got a demo, he's got to listen to them all. Now, his assistants might start it off, but he's got to listen. We're putting people on today. I'm finding one person today. Uh-oh, front row.
I sign off on that.
I have 2 quick ones. One, you always say, fuck your rough mix. But where's that balance? Are people coming to you knowing that it's going to change a lot? Or does it end up not changing that much? How far do you really take that saying? Like, how much are you really disregarding the original?
I'm actually so glad you brought that up. So Wonder will send me a mix and nothing changes. It just gets better. Somebody else will send me a mix and it might change. But the fuck your rough is a two-part answer. You have to understand that we're not appreciated at all. And I've been called by someone who is extremely talented, man, you're just like a compressor. Just do what I say.
I appreciate you, though.
Thank you, brother. So, long story short, we matter. And I want to make sure, if I'm the only voice that lets people know how much we matter, like, we're important. But more importantly, in my favorite genre, hip-hop and R&B, I feel that we're going backwards with sound quality. So I'm fighting as hard as I can. I do free mixes for people who I think are extremely talented and need my help. But more importantly, you have to understand that I have to respect the rough. I have to follow that guideline. If that same drop isn't there and that thing that they're saying, you have to respect it. But then you have to say to yourself, hey, listen, I've been doing this 1,000,000 times. You made your rough, the day of the night you cut the record, and you listened to it 1,000 times. Scientifically speaking, if I listen to something 1,000 times, I'm going to hate any changes. That's just the way it is. So either you say to yourself as an artist, and it's happened many a times where they hate the mix and they say this, Jay, I got to trust you, but I hate it. And the next thing you got Unforgettable by French Montana. They all hated the mix. Puff, French, everybody. Too much reverb. Now, one of the questions I always get asked, what's that reverb on Unforgettable? So you got to either do it for yourself. Like, I don't chase the money. I do it for me. And I never take your money if you don't accept the mix. Ever. And to keep it 100, he's told me a million times, this ain't it. But we still rock together. I'm still his first call because he knows I'm giving it everything I got. They know that I'm trying my hardest, and it's not because I'm not good. It's just that I feel something different. You might want Chinese food. I might want Italian. It just is what it is. But never take it personal. You only can take it personal when you do what, like, make it sound like the rough. What if you had to do that every day? I might as well work at Home Depot.
So what was the reverb on Unforgettable?
I'm ashamed to say this.
Vintage Room?
H delay with a pre-delay. And I always say it in my hashtags, but it worked. Deverb, church. One thing you got to understand with deverb is whoever came up with that algorithm to shift the pitch towards the end to give it that distinct deverb sound was brilliant. Brilliant. Now all these new plugins are, you'll see distortion on the reverb, pitch on the reverb, making it bend, so on and so forth. But H delay with a pre-delay, straight into the reverb with no deverb with no pre-delay, church, to the next deverb at the next H delay at 50% at a 16th note, and then deverb again, church. That simple. So what you're doing is you're getting multiple reverbs at the same time that are shifting pitches and hitting your ear differently. Now the last reverb actually was sent to another reverb that's outside the speakers. So it's literally, I was trying to make a tornado around Sway's voice. I hope that helps.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna ask one for you, Jason, and you, Wonders, just in case I know I'm not gonna get the mic again. For mixing, do you reference tracks? Do you believe you can make a good mix without using a reference track? And are you handicapping yourself if you don't? For you, and then Boy Wonder, do you ever make a beat based on a loop? You build the beat around the loop and then find that you want to scrap the loop and just use the elements that you did around it. How often, if ever, does that happen for you? Thanks.
Yeah, I actually just did that yesterday, to be honest. Like, for me, making music, you subtract, you add, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes I was making a song the other day off of a loop, and then I had my boy Jahan Sweet over there. He added some piano, and it sounded like too much, so I took the loop out, and then we ended up using the record with just the piano, and it's for me, it's just like trial and error when I'm making music. So it could happen, it could work sometimes, and it works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes. So it's just like you just gotta listen. It's just all about the air. Me, I'm not the most technical guy when it comes to making music. For me, my whole formula is if it sounds good to me, maybe it sounds good to everybody. So all the technical stuff, I have no idea. I just do what I do, and I just listen with my ears. So that does happen a lot, though. It does.
So the second part of your question is yes and no. If it's a new client, I'm very competitive. So I'll take a record. Like I remember when I first me and Wonder started working together. I'll take a record that I know was a banger, and I try to kill it as hard as I can. But when I lock in with you, I'm my own reference. And this is very important. Don't get lost in your own sauce. Don't stay in your room and that's the only vibe you're catching. Like, oh, let me battle Jay, or let me battle Serban, or let me battle Dave. You need to go out and feel what other people are feeling. Because by a show of hands, and don't fucking lie, we don't listen to music the same. When we hear records now, we're critiquing from the rip. Take yourself back to when you were a kid. Take yourself back to when you were a child, when you didn't know what a bass was or a snare was or a hi-hat was, and you just heard that first Tribe Called Quest or whatever it was, you're like, this is my shit. You got to hypnotize yourself to go back there. Because if you become too technical, like a lot of the greats are, you're going to lose. Because these kids, with the invention of the computer, they don't need to be technical. They go by their heart because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But then you'll hear a Bobby Shmurda record and be like, God damn, that's hitting. You feel? So just find the club or find the spot or let's go take a drive in your car and just listen to records and don't critique. Just be like, man, this record's a hit. It feels so good. I'm going to chase that feeling. I only chase a feeling.
This is for a question for you, Jason. I seen a picture floating around Instagram, and it just said hashtag thank you, Jason Joshua. It was a picture of a Pro Tools track that had like 7 or 8 NLS buses on it. Can you explain what was going on with that?
Mike Will's engineer, who at the time had no fucking idea what he was doing, put 8 NLS plugins on one aux that the drums were going through. And like I said, when I saw it, I'm like, this can't be right. And I took it off. Next thing you know it, everything just disappeared. There was no bottom. There was no depth. And I'm like, there's no way there's no way we found out what my SSL console does on accident. And what I mean by that is, for whatever reason, when all those plugins are lined up in the correct order, the algorithm that it's spitting out is eerily similar to what an analog console does. It gives you variations. So if I have a mix of 100 instruments going through my console, I'm going to beat you every time on that soulful feel because you're getting different harmonics from every channel. Whether it's EQ'd slightly different, so you put all those together, you got these harmonics that are like, why isn't my mix fat? Why isn't this? You put those 8 together, it'll change your life. Your life. It's so hard that I even use it with my console. It's mind-blowing. And I guarantee you this, I got a call from Waves right after saying, hey, can we make a plugin under your name called with all this shit in? I was like, nah, I'm good. But they sold a lot of those fucking plugins. Trust. And then I saw a guy sent me a DM in a picture. He had it on every instrument. And I was like, now you're bugging. Hold up. Now listen to me. When he said yes, I couldn't believe it. Now, I've been working on this speech for about 2 days.
Get out of here.
I used to listen to my man like when I was just getting into the record business. I don't know if a lot of you guys know I used to be an A&R. And obviously you can see, not a very good one. But long story short, before I got into the business, he was the king. And he's the reason, him and Dexter Simmons are the reason why I'm so passionate on making R&B and rap records sonically competitive with the pop records and the country records that are coming out. And when you listen to Rodney's records back in the day, and I'm so happy that R&B is making a comeback, he made R&B pop. He didn't change his style, but it was so clean and so perfect and so amazing that he made radio chase him. Just like Wonder, when they came with that dark-ass filter sound that everybody bit, radio chased them. So the fact that he came, what was the first big record? What's the one that gave you the oh, I got it?
I Can Love You by Mary J. Blige.
Good God.
Now, think about that. What year was that? Let's just say over 20 years ago.
97.
So over 20 years ago. It doesn't happen. You're looking at a black unicorn. And let me tell you why. I can count maybe 3 people on this planet that can have a #1 record 20 years ago and they be Grammy nominated for Record of the Year 20 years later. It just doesn't happen. So I implore all of you to ask him how every year, every decade, every this, every that. And plus, he cultivates so many hot producers and talents with their #1s and got their publishing because he's smart. Please ask him a whole bunch of questions because I want to know.
One thing that really inspires me, really, is if you look around, you guys are the only people that brought out a crowd like this. And the word that comes to me is community. So I have 2 questions for you. What is community to you and why does it matter so much? Because even in your socials, you say, ask me anything. You always have an open door. Why is that? There's nobody else doing that. You're one exception and it's amazing. And also, your personality is so much different than everyone next to you. How can you guys all make this community and be so vastly different?
For me, community is strength. You know, like we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. Everybody, and to me, it's like the end goal is to make the best song ever, right? So, you know, we all have our strengths, and if you put everybody's strength together, you get the best product. So for me, it's just. That's the importance of community to me and working with other people, you know, working with people like Dave, Jason, Rodney, you know, everybody. And, you know, and we all put our strengths together and make the best product. So that's really what it is to me.
I agree with him. For me, community is super important because if you're in a room and everybody's going to have a different opinion, right? And if you got a community, somebody may say something to spark something to make you say, you know what? Damn, I wasn't thinking about that. That's a great idea. So like me and Jason all the time, we probably, if I say out of 100%, we probably fight like 85% because he think he's always correct. And he's sensitive too. He's like a big giant. So he's very sensitive. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey man, check this out, bro. I don't agree with you, whatever. I spend my time in here and gave you the best. I'm like, Jason, come on, man. It's just my opinion, bro. Relax. So I think that's very important to have a community. And when you got a community where it's like brotherhood and sisterhood, where you can actually disagree to agree or not agree at all, that's very important. Because one man can't run a show.
Nope.
I've got a different opinion. If you look at this panel, there's something a little different you'll see. I make most of my income from the African American community. And early on when I started my career out in LA in 1990, I realized that I was a guest in that community. I was invited in. I didn't grow up the same way my friends did, and so I felt a responsibility towards the community. I don't like the term so much give back, but to share some things that I could bring along some people that were more deserving than me to be in that community. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's not only true about the African American community, but my heart's in the Latino community, and I know Jason's is too. And I think that anybody that gets a blessing probably deserves the blessing, but why stop there? You know, nobody's more blessed than me. I'm up here with people that I admire so much, and I've known this guy since childbirth, just about, it seems like. And then Jason was inspirational. Jason made me 10 times the man I am, and 0.25 the engineer that I am. And I think that we all have a responsibility towards each other. Music is the greatest thing on earth, and if you just take that music and let it lead you where it needs to lead you, like Jason said, don't worry about income, just worry about respecting the music, and you'll find yourself at the top like these guys. And that comes with a responsibility to share those things and to share your heart with other people.
I think ultimately, my opinion is like your goal to be up here, everybody's goal is the same, and that's to be the best, no matter how you hook it or cut it. And the goal should be to be the king of whatever it is. But I was taught that you can't be the king unless you have a servant's heart. Like every king had to serve first, right? So the people, all these people, like we serve each other, whether it's pouring into each other's gifts in one way or another. That's the purpose of community, is to serve each other. So we can't be who we are without everyone doing their part.